Welcome to the Pacific Research Institute Next Round podcast. I'm Tim Anaya, PRI's Vice President of Marketing and Communications, and your podcast co-host. This week we have a very special episode for you. We're pleased to present our conversation with former San Francisco Mayor, the longest-serving Assembly Speaker in state history, and legendary California Politico, Willie Brown. Our Steven Greenhut, the director of PRI's Free City Center, recently sat down with Mayor Brown in San Francisco, and they discussed a host of issues related to primarily the challenges facing California's and the West Coast urban centers. They talk about crime, homelessness, education, investment in urban centers, and the challenges of leadership in our big urban cities. Plus, stay tuned to hear how Mayor Brown dealt with CEQA bureaucracy holding up the approval of important projects in San Francisco. I think you'll all be amused by his answer. Well, whether you agree with him or not, I think we would all say that Willie Brown has had an incredibly interesting career in politics at the highest levels, and he always has something interesting and insightful to say, even if you're shaking your head while you hear the answer. So stay tuned. After the message, enjoy our Steven Greenhut in conversation with Mayor Willie Brown. Thanks for joining us. We'll get back to Next Round in just a moment, but first, are you getting PRI's regular email updates? If not, go to pacificresearch.org and click the sign up button at the top of the page to get the facts you need to fight back delivered every week to your inbox. Every week, PRI sends you what you need to know about what's going on in Washington, D.C. and Sacramento, and gives you the free market ideas needed to save our state and our nation. By going to pacificresearch.org and clicking the sign up button, you can sign up to have Policy Alert, our weekly roundup of all the best ideas from PRI scholars delivered to your inbox. Or you can sign up for event updates, so you're the first to know when PRI is coming to your community with great events. So sign up now at pacificresearch.org and click the sign up button at the top of the page to get PRI's content delivered to your inbox each week.
So Mayor Brown, the Free City Center is committed to improving urban policy, and San Francisco has received its share of criticism over the last couple of years. Often it's from people who don't seem to know the city. But I'm wondering if you can provide your take on how the city's handling the big challenges: housing, crime, homelessness.
Well, I served in the legislature for many decades. And when term limits came along, I had to find something else to do. And I had more than 37 years of time holding public office. And I ran and won the mayorship of the city without any previous knowledge or information about local government and about the city and city politics. And so it was a challenge instantly for me to face all of the individual things that people who live in cities say, but in particularly in San Francisco. It was just kind of amazing. And it was literally a situation in which you have to deal with it instantly. You do not get what I got in the legislature was an opportunity to produce a bill, to enact and address an issue, and then wait for somebody at the local level to implement my bill. And I could correct it next year if it was wrong. At the local level, not optional. You literally have to fix it or not get re-elected. Fixing the challenge in every way, though, meant hands-on, daily, hourly, minute by minute, responding to whatever was the issue, whether it was homelessness, whether it was the housing problem, and the housing problem generated by the people you as the mayor had appointed to things like the Planning Commission or Department of Public Works or any of those kinds of operations that actually do the work. And you got elected, you'd better address it, because in 4 years, you'll be up for re-election possibly. And if you didn't address it, you get unelected.
Yeah. So on the recent years, I mean, there's been all that attention, right, to especially the homelessness and some of the crime issues. And now I had mentioned before, my daughter got married here, and we had a lot of out of town guests, and they were expecting it to look like Detroit, and they were happily surprised that the city looked much better than some of the news reports. But there still were, some crime problems and homelessness problems. So how do you think the city has made a lot of progress in the last couple of years?
I must tell you that every city of any size has the same issues.
Yeah.
Homelessness, crime, all kinds of things that people experience on a daily basis, potentially. San Francisco was no different in that regard. It was dealt with, and it has been dealt with, and is being dealt with in a very aggressive way. And without the interference, frankly, of the national government, as is occurring in Los Angeles currently, San Francisco has people who engage in protests. Every city has people who speak up daily on whatever the issues are. How you handle that determines whether or not it becomes a real problem. San Francisco, at the moment, does not have a real problem. It's being handled very well. And as a matter of fact, from mayor to mayor to mayor, I left the mayorship more than 20 years ago. And you got to know that from that moment on, the issue of homelessness, crime, growth, building, all of that has been handled from one mayor to the next, almost as if they were in a relay race and that they were passing the baton.
Okay, so do you think the current leadership's handling it different than you handled it, or these matters? Or
well, they'd have to handle it different than I handled it, because I said it's 21 years ago since I was part of this process. In those years leading up to my going backwards from my time to now, and leading up, you got to know that there's been a dramatic change in the political climate. There was no such thing as a progressive in my time period. Right. There was no such thing as a Bernie Sanders in my time period. There was no such thing as a Donald Trump in my period. In my years of holding public office, my years of running for public office, there was competition between Republicans and Democrats. But the day that decision was made by the voters, the campaigning stopped and people started working and doing things together, whether they were Republicans or Democrats, as we did in the legislature for years. You understand that I was head of that body for 14 and a half years. I was what you call the speaker. 14 and a half years ahead of that body. At that time, the two main governors were George Duke Manchin and Pete Wilson. I only had 2 years of Jerry Brown. All my other years, I had to deal with Republican governors. I even had to deal with Republican majority on legislatures at certain times. Each time, however, the vote was not for a Democrat. The vote was for, not for a Republican. The vote was for whomever appeared to be the person offering the best leadership. And for 14 and a half years, twice as long as any other person in the history of this state, the assumption was I was the best at doing the leadership role until they did term limits. When term limits came along, I was no longer eligible to run.
Yeah, Republicans, I know even from Orange County, look back fondly on those days. So you got to be doing something right.
I can tell you, everybody looks back fondly on those days because just think about it. George Duke Manchin is a guy who was the governor. And what did I present him with? Free Nelson Mandela by eliminating the business of investing pension funds and companies doing business in South Africa and perpetuating what was called apartheid. He signed that bill. He signed the bill that a guy named Mike Roos from Southern California presented for purposes of banning assault weapons. The only state in the country that banned assault weapons was the state of California, signed by a Republican governor. One event after another, including during the Wilson years, can be recorded, which means the cessation of campaigning stopped on election night when the votes were in and there was a certification, and we started as a team of elected officials trying to correct the problems by way of the legislative process.
Yeah, that's something. Now, politically, the city's gone through some, significant changes. Voters recalled the school board, recalled the DA, and replaced London Breed with Daniel Lurie. And I guess I wondered your thoughts on what's going on. Are these good trends, or were they necessary trends, and what led to them? And your thoughts on Mayor Breed's tenure and so far the short tenure of Mayor Lurie.
Well, you got to know that I'm not objecting on London Breed.
Right.
When London Breed graduated from the University of California at Davis, her first job was with me.
Well, and I don't expect you to be objective on anything.
So be clear.
Oh, yeah.
She got a job with me in '96. She learned her politics post her college years from my operation. And she proceeded to become the mayor of San Francisco after becoming the president of the Board of Supervisors in San Francisco, all post Willie Brown holding public office.
Right.
What Daniel Lurie, who headed a nonprofit in our city, and a successful nonprofit. He ran our operation appointed by Ed Lee, the first Asian mayor of this city. And he got Daniel Lurie, a effective person running a nonprofit, to do the Super Bowl for San Francisco.
Right.
So Daniel Lurie demonstrated leadership skills. In the campaign, he won the election over London Breed after this ranked choice crazy stuff that has become the reality of this city long since I left.
Right.
It was not part of the reality of the city when I got elected. I still got elected in the democratic way. Top two people, you win the election by being all the first place votes. That's how you win the election.
Right. This ranked choice gets complicated.
So London lost the election under the ranked choice concept. Daniel Lurie won it. He's been relatively smart because everything that she had put in place to try to address from the pandemic to the present day, everything she tried to put in place, he has either kept it, slightly modified it, including the various components of the city through the commission process. And it's worked well. And believe me, he deserves the credit for implementing what London started.
And you thought she was a good mayor, right?
She was a very good mayor.
We'll get back to our great guest in just a moment. But first, are you following PRI on Facebook? By following PRI at facebook.com/Pacific Research Institute, that's all one word, you'll be the first to read free market ideas from PRI's terrific team of scholars on all the hot issues like education freedom, single-payer healthcare, crime, homelessness, green mandates like the ban on natural gas appliances, and more. Plus, when you follow PRI at facebook.com/Pacific Research Institute, you'll be the first to know when tickets go on sale for PRI's must-attend luncheons, dinners, and galas across the state. And you'll be first in line to secure your spot to hear great speakers like Michael Schellenberger, Gordon Chang, Steve Hilton, and many more. So go to facebook.com/Pacific Research Institute and follow PRI today so you'll be the first to know.
And how about the recall of Chesa Bowden, the DA?
Never should have been elected.
Yeah, and explain why.
Because he was far removed from understanding and appreciating public safety as a priority with people. Public safety is a priority with all of us.
Mm-hmm.
On a daily basis, we do not approve of folk going into Walmart or going into Walgreens and cleaning shelves and running out with bags. We don't approve any of that. And a person doing that ought to be prosecuted. That particular district attorney did not think that way. He thought that person maybe was in need and was exercising a fulfillment of that need. He also thought that people should not be punished for certain kinds of drug use. He thought differently about other people's public safety.
Yeah.
And he got recalled as a result of that.
And things have gotten better in the DA's office from
The DA who is running the city law enforcement operation now is a woman. She was the chief homicide prosecutor for the previous DA that got recalled, that preceded the recall of the DA who got elected. And she has stepped up, helped orchestrate the recall, and got appointed to fill the vacancy. And then she has since been elected herself. And she is doing extremely well. And she is a real tough prosecutor, similar to what Kamala Harris was when she was the DA of the city.
And what do you think of the whole school board recall?
School board recall was something that was frankly due. The school board operations are such that many of the people who work for the school district have become part of a operation that has become immersed in politics rather than in student achievement, student involvement, and parent participation. That evidenced itself in the recall of the people making the decisions. And the results were they got recalled, and now you have a school board that appears to be addressing the issues more appropriately. And it's interesting because one of the examples of addressing the issues appropriately, before the recall, you had to get like incredible grades to go to some schools, in particular Lowell High School.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a bone of contention because there was virtually no diversity in that particular school. And lo and behold, the school board would not solve that issue by figuring out how best to have the selection process include opportunities measuring more than just academic achievement.
Right.
There were other kinds of achievements that ought to go for participating in who you are in a school. Well, the school board wouldn't listen to that message. They got recalled. They have since listened to that message. And for an example, where you go to school now, up to 8th grade, depends on whether or not you get in to Lowell.
Mm-hmm.
We literally have a high school now that's similar to Harvard, that's similar to Yale, that's similar to University of California at Berkeley or UCLA, top schools with a diversity of persons there without reference to academic achievement be the only measuring award for admission.
Yeah. No, that's good. Now, last year there's a lot of attention on Toilet Gate, right? The city's delay and cost overruns in building that single toilet down in No Valley. Okay, and that got national attention because, well, it was supposed to be emblematic of how San Francisco can't do anything.
Yeah.
And it was going to cost what, $1 million, even after a contractor was going to donate the toilet. Do you think anything's improved in terms of, or what was that a true perception that you can't do anything in San Francisco? And if so, do you think it's improved? I mean, even Scott Wiener, right, in his SB 423, put an oversight over the city's planning department. So if you could address that.
Those are all things that happens in cities. You gotta know that, and it was foreign to me,
right,
from the legislature. We don't have that issue of legislation. We literally vote yes or no, and we go debate, and and we move on.
Yeah.
Local government is different. Local government has some of everything that many families experience, and it's expressed by the people who are elected by those people. San Francisco is a wonderment of that kind of activity.
Right.
And frankly, I think it always has been. There was always a North Beach. There was always a Summer of Love. There was always something that made us far more interested. And believe me, San Francisco should not mind being criticized for an alleged cost of a toilet.
Okay. Although, the unions and gummed up the works, and it was a crazy story. Yeah. But now you're known for getting things built in the city, fixing up the Embarcadero, fueling a high-rise boom, building Giants ballpark. What are the lessons? How do you get things done? How do you avoid more toilet gates? How do you get more?
No, you're not going to avoid criticism.
Right.
You got to live with criticism because you're not going to be perfect. Every time you have the rules that say you got to go through these 9 steps before a decision is made, I guarantee you the people who are walking you through those 9 steps love the fact that they can impact. And that impact includes delay. That's all part of what happens with local government. San Francisco is no different. Believe me. San Francisco is we probably have more sophisticated people knowing how to delay.
Right.
In pursuit of perfection. But perfection is not achievable.
But you broke through the logjam. So how are you able to do it?
That's because I simply ignored the rules.
Okay. Okay. All right.
For an example, I had no idea that you get elected mayor. At my inauguration, and I got inaugurated outdoors over here in Yerba Buena Gardens, which is about 4 or 5 blocks away near where our Moscone Center is. At my inauguration, in my inaugural address, I announced who's going to be my police chief, first Asian. I announced who's going to be my fire chief, first black. And I named all these people. Yet we have these crazy rules to say that a commission that you as mayor has appointed, and they will send you a list of 3, and you can choose from any one of the 3. You think I'd wait around for somebody to go through a process, and I got to get elected on the basis of whether or not it's a good police chief, whether or not it's a good fire chief? No, I ignored that. And I did the same when it comes to building. If you, the builder, told me that you are being delayed, you, the developer, told me you are being delayed, I called the person who was delaying you and said, tell me why you are delaying. We need this facility done tomorrow. That's how we got Mission Bay. That's how we got the Giants baseball stadium. That's how we got the Chase Center for basketball in San Francisco. That's how we built the new hospital that the University of California has called the Benioff Hospital. here in Mission Bay. We did all those things because I said overnight, you come with the quality, you will evaluate it, and I make the final decision, and I make it instantly. I also put in the process, which was kind of unique, of once a month, every Saturday morning at 7 a.m. Once a month, first Saturday in every month. Anybody could come talk to the mayor for 10 minutes without going through any business involving staff and what have you. I insisted that all of my department heads be available from 7 a.m. on that Saturday till I closed down City Hall. No one has ever done that since, and no one has ever shut it before me. But it worked really well because individual people came to see me. Not a lobbyist, individual people who had the problem came to see me.
Did you have long lines or?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Long lines, and believe me, I got the impression that there were more crazy people in this town than there were sensible people.
I'm not surprised. Now, did you have a lot of support on the Board of Supervisors for most of these projects, or were you fighting with them all the time?
No, I didn't really fight with them very much because first, they were elected citywide.
Yeah.
So I didn't have to suffer from the business of people voting only for their district. That's crazy. This city is 47 square miles. How could you not be concerned if you're at Mission District or you're at Sunset or you're at Pacific Heights? You got to be concerned about the muni buses because they all stop in each one of them. So you got to be with me on making sure muni is universal. You got to be with me also on the business of the Giants baseball club. How do we get it built? How do we get it done? How do we get all that to happen? You dump in the freeways that we didn't need and never should have had. I got those removed simply because the quake had done the damage and they had to be safely torn down, but they were never put back up once I became the mayor of San Francisco. So it's the business of not being burdened with district elections, not being burdened with people running for public office and allegedly having 5 votes on call, ranked choice voting. And then I had the power to appoint any vacancy that occurred on the elective office in San Francisco. Currently, they've changed the rules since I left, and the Board of Supervisors will have to say, to the extent 11-member board, and if that 11-member board by 6 doesn't approve whom I appoint, that person can get appointed. I didn't suffer from any of that. All those rules came after I left. And that was a problem.
It was big. Did they implement them because of what you did, or it was?
Oh yeah, I'm sure they did.
Yeah,
I'm sure that they didn't like the exercise of power.
Yeah.
Many politicians don't really like the exercise of power unless they are exercised.
Right. That's how it.
We'll get back to our terrific interview in just a moment, but first, PRI's YouTube channel is must watch. By visiting youtube.com/Pacific Research 1, that's the number 1, you can watch webinars, videos, and other original content, including our new Free City Center video tours and interviews. You can watch as PRI's Wayne Weingarten tours Dignity Moves, a San Francisco nonprofit that is reimagining scalable solutions to homelessness with founder and CEO Elizabeth Funk. And you can check out Steven Greenhut's tour of a proposed new city in rural Solano County that has generated significant interest and intrigue. You can even listen to previous episodes of Next Round Podcast. So visit PRI's YouTube channel today at youtube.com/Pacific Research 1, that's the number 1, and click the subscribe button to receive notifications about our latest content as soon as it's posted.
Redevelopment was in full swing during your time as mayor. The California redevelopment agencies. It was eliminated by Jerry Brown in 2011 to reduce the budget deficit. What were your thoughts on redevelopment when you were mayor? Do you think it helped or hurt your efforts to revitalize the city?
Redevelopment was my main agent for building. Redevelopment process authorized the taking of land, take your building without the full process of eminent domain because your building was contributing nothing, your building was a slum, your building did not do what it needed for the whole city. Jerry Brown was mayor of Oakland when he learned about redevelopment, and he went back and became the governor. He abolished redevelopment. He abolished the agency that did more to facilitate the development of cities than any other person ever. I think he was wrong for doing that. He was of the opinion that some of the mistakes and some of the antics in redevelopment was inconsistent with good judgment. And therefore he thought you should replace redevelopment with a different kind of, but the legislature didn't do the different kind of. He abolished, he used in Oakland,
Right.
he got it out of the way so that he could rebuild Oakland, downtown Oakland, and other parts of Oakland. He really had the vision that I kind of perfected with the redevelopment operation in San Francisco. Once that agency disappeared, you don't have an agency that can ignore all of the development rules, for an example. If you declare that space part of redevelopment, that's what I did to get Mission Bay. I made the Mission Bay area, that space, redevelopment. And I eliminated all the rules, application to that land. And that's what redevelopment did, had its own set of rules.
Yeah, when I covered redevelopment in Orange County for the Orange County Register, there were quite a few abuses, though. I mean, cities that,
And that's what Jerry Brown was getting rid of.
Yeah,
He was getting rid of abuses, mistakes, and exploitation unrelated to ultimate productivity.
Yeah, like downtown Anaheim was demolished, and a lot of times it was minority neighborhoods that were targeted. So did you weren't fearful of some of those problems here? And
no, because it was me.
it was okay, but you weren't there forever, right? So somebody else would come along and
but we in San Francisco always, everybody who ever served as mayor and appointed the head of redevelopment did their best. The only person that didn't do their best was a guy named Justin Herman, who really made it almost impossible for people of color to continue to thrive and have their space called the Fillmore. It was at one time envisioned to be equal to Harlem in New York, if you could do it right. He wiped that out. He put in replacement Japantown.
Oh, okay.
As part of what was built on the redeveloped land. We still are fighting some of those battles. So yes, in the world of democracy, rules and regulations are many times in need of attention in pursuit of perfection for the city, county, etc.
Okay, and looking back on your time as mayor, what project that was built do you think left the biggest legacy on the city after all these years? What are you most proud of?
For me,
yeah,
Mission Bay. Mission Bay, I referred to earlier in your questions, but that's where that hospital, the new University of California Medical Centers Hospital, that's where the research for life-saving activities goes on today.
My granddaughter was born there.
It's one of the fabulous components. And the only thing that they added in partnership with the port, the Giants baseball park was built, considered to be one of the #1 baseball parks in the country. The Chase Center basketball facility is built, now considered to be maybe the best. And we would have had the football facility ultimately built there
Yeah.
had we not allowed the football team to relocate to Santa Clara, but keep the San Francisco name. If they relocate to Santa Clara, they should have become the Santa Clara Niners. And then we would have had an opportunity for a replacement football team here in San Francisco. We deserve a San Francisco real football team, not a hybrid down in San Jose. So I am very proud of that section of our city because the Giants baseball park has turned into something not matchable any other place because the Giants not only finally got the baseball park built, but they partnered up with the port for things like Pier 70 and others to build another part of the city. And when I said another part of the city, it was just another good neighborhood.
Okay. Now, the transit systems here, BART and Muni, have been struggling, right? They always have budget deficits. BART's been the major system that's taken the longest to come back. It's not even close to pre-pandemic levels. What are those agencies doing wrong?
I don't think those agencies are doing anything wrong. I think we have allowed those agencies to be established without really understanding what it would take for those agencies to be able to live off of the restricted revenues that come with just being the agency as they are. For an example, there is no justification for Muni charging riders. That ought to be something that's part of what we do.
Oh, charging anything, right?
What we do is public, that's right.
How do you
What we
keep the
do-
buses from becoming roving homeless shelters then?
No, they would not become homeless. You would regulate the process.
Okay.
You would be practical at doing. But believe me, public transportation really ought to be public transportation. New York has mastered it somehow.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't do just free rides, but you got to do it in such a way that it doesn't become a problem every year on the budget side. And the same goes, frankly, for the BART. The 9 counties ought to be connected by BART. Only about 3 of the counties initially were connected by BART, and now other counties are trying to get in. You can't deal with the housing problem in San Francisco unless you're in partnership somehow with BART so that people can live in Petaluma and get to San Francisco for work within an hour every day at a price they can afford.
Well, it'd be nice.
No, we allowed people to opt out in 6 of the 9 county Bay Area. We said you don't have to be a part of the BART. Means you don't have to put up money to build BART. Now all of a sudden, many of the places that had refused to literally do it back in the 50s and 60s when BART was first conceived. There's so many things we've done stupidly in the process of trying to make life better and more affordable for everybody and using tax dollars to help do that.
If we ever get trains to the Transbay Terminal, is that going to happen?
We have the foundation done.
Yeah.
Literally here in San Francisco. We are a block and a half away from where the trains used to go on the Bay Bridge, key system to where the Transbay Tower was. We now have the Salesforce Tower there, and it's on top of the train station that hopefully one of these days, coming from Los Angeles, and probably an hour and a half or two, you'll leave on the high-speed rail and you'll end up here. You'll leave downtown Los Angeles and downtown San Francisco. We're ready and we're waiting because when we built Salesforce Tower, it's on top of, we pre-built, literally pre-built the train station.
Although they have to now share the tracks with Caltrain, so
yeah, well, there's nothing wrong with that. That's all part of what it should be.
doesn't that slow it down? Or,
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And what do you think of Quentin Kopp's criticism of their?
Quentin Kopp is a very bright man, very able senator, and you have to be careful because sometimes he's not right.
Okay. Fair enough. Yeah,
That's the best I can say.
Okay. Now, I read a column you famously wrote in San Francisco Chronicle maybe 12, 13 years ago about how with major projects, I think you were writing about the Transbay Terminal, you dig a big enough hole and you make it so big that you got to keep filling it in with cash. I forget. You put it well. Is that your thinking on the high-speed rail still, or?
Oh yeah, I'm still banking on high-speed rail, and if the Democrats had won the White House, we would be discussing with the Democrats complete the funding for the abbreviated version of the high-speed rail, and that's what we should do.
Now, if you were still leading the legislature or the House, the Assembly, what would you do about CEQA?
Jerry Brown literally addressed the CEQA issue more effectively than any other mayor. And he did so when he was serving as mayor because he had served as governor. And then when he got to be governor, he perfected the implementation of CEQA reforms. I maintain that Mayor Newsom should be acting like he's mayor in the governorship on the CEQA issue. He should not allow the holy commitment to the environment to interfere with good judgment on such issues.
Yeah, so you would support more reforms, right?
I hate to call it more reform. I would hope it could be called better judgment.
Reducing
on a
lawsuits,
pending issue,
right?
yeah.
Okay. And then we discussed a little earlier about how you would get along with both parties, and there was a higher level of trust and competition. What would you, based on that, is there any way of getting back to that? What would you recommend today when everyone's at this partisan, they're at their throat, each other's throats, right?
I think, however, that the partisanship override that we have experienced over the last 10 to 12 years is dissipating itself because of the failure of performance, the failure of results. The public is now, in many cases, appropriately assigning the blame to that failure to be the partisanship burden that we've undertaken. I think we are slowly but surely extracting ourselves away from it. We're having more trouble, frankly, at the moment with MAGA than we are with Republicans or Democrats.
So you think it might fix itself then?
Yes.
People get tired of it.
People are already tired of it.
I'm sick of it. Yeah. And I got one last question. If you were mayor again, what would your agenda be? What would be the top things on your agenda?
I would take the system back to where I left it in '04, and I would try to correct every error that's been tolerated. And I would start with citywide elections of people holding public office in San Francisco that would no longer be in the districts. I know some would say, well, you got to have some district. Okay, you got 11 seats, make 5 of them districts and 6 of them citywide. And you could have a definition of district. There's some people getting elected to the Board of Supervisors with 8,000 votes. This is an 800,000 population. And you suddenly are being elected to represent somebody with only 8,000 votes. Are you kidding me? So that's the first thing I'd change. The very first thing I'd change as a new mayor, if I could, would be to address the issue of representation. And how you get elected would be not this nonsense of district elections. You really would go back to citywide elections, which means everybody running for office would have to go to every neighborhood, whether it's Viz Valley, whether it's Pacific Heights, whether it's Chinatown, whether it's Dog Patch, whether it's Hunters Point, Bayview, whether it's the Fillmore, whether it's J-Town, the Mission. I mean, there's just so many challenges that could be addressed far more effectively if you had people who had the responsibility for all of those, not just their own little individual district.
Well, we thank you so much for your time. It's really a pleasure, Mr. Mayor.
If you like this episode, please tell your friends and subscribe to PRI's podcast at iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. And when you're on these platforms, don't forget to give us a big 5 stars. If you don't subscribe to any of these, you can still listen on PRI's YouTube page, youtube.com/Pacific Research 1. That's the number 1. Thanks for listening. I'm Rowena Ichon. Hope you'll come back again for next round with PRI.